All right, guys, so what I'm about to show you is how to use DESMOS to correctly make your scatter plot and then also put the line of best fit into it. What we have here right now is the DESMOS homepage, and when you first go onto DESMOS, you're going to notice the coordinate plane is pretty much zoomed in, and we're going to fix that in a moment. The first thing you want to do is in the upper left corner of DESMOS, you can add an item, and when you click this menu, you get a table that will allow you to fill in all of the data points that go into your scatter plot. When you click table, you will see you have an X column and a Y column, and you will start entering your data points. X would be your hours of sleep, so for example, 6 hours of sleep, and then the Y value could be maybe minutes of phone use, and maybe that's 120, and then that data point would appear on the coordinate plane. But because 6, 120 is really far out from where the graph is right now, you just can't see that data point. And you would basically just hit tab or enter, and you will keep entering your data points from there. And once you get all of them in, you will have your basic scatter plot. Now, just to jump over to another tab here where I have already put in 30 data points right here, just to show you what the finished product's going to look like. Notice how the graph is still really zoomed in and we cannot see any of these data points. Now, you can zoom out pretty far and eventually see all the data points, but if you put in the line of best fit right now, it's going to be vertical. It is very important that you change the scale of DESMOS so that you can correctly see your graph. And here's how you do that from a computer. In the top right corner of DESMOS, there is a little wrench icon that is called Graph Settings. Click that icon, and a menu is going to pop up where you are able to change the x-axis and y-axis. For the x-axis, I would recommend that depending on where your data is, you might want to start with maybe 4 or 5. For the data that I have here, I'm just going to start it at 3. So 3 hours was one of the smallest amount of hours that was in our data set. And then for the upper limit of the x-axis, no one slept more than 10 hours in this example, so I'm just going to make it 11. And what that does is the x-axis is now only going from 3 to 11. For the y-axis, since minutes of phone use is a positive value, you could start your y-axis at 0 or maybe -10, or you can just kind of keep it a small enough number because your upper boundary is going to be pretty high up there. In this data set that we have, the upper bound was about 480, so I'm going to make the y maximum be 500. And when I click back onto the graph, you can now see, I'll just push this up a little bit so it's a little more clear, the x-axis is starting at 3, it's ending at 10, but the y-axis is starting at 0 but ending at 500. And what we now have is a nice clear view of all of the data points. And we can now go and make the line of best fit. So here's how you do that. Scroll down and make sure you have a new tab space available to enter a new equation into DESMOS. And here's what the code's going to look like. Watch what I'm going to type. You have to type y and then sub 1. The way you make a little 1 appear below the y is you go shift and then hyphen, but when you do shift hyphen, it makes DESMOS read that as a subscript. And then you will press 1, and now you have y sub 1. To make DESMOS leave the subscript function, you have to press over arrow, the over arrow key right here, and if you notice the cursor is now going to go back to a normal size, and it's no longer in the subscript mode. The next button you have to press, we're basically creating a slope-intercept form line, which is y equals mx plus b, but the code for DESMOS is not an equal sign. You're going to use shift again and press right up here in the upper left corner the tilde button, which is this squiggly single line thing right here. And when you press that, that is the symbol that appears that is called a tilde. And that is part of the code for DESMOS to make the line of best fit. We're almost done though. You type in m, which represents the slope. You type in x, but again, you need a subscript of 1. So we will have to again hit shift and then the hyphen button, but when you press shift first and then hyphen, it makes it go back to the subscript mode. Press 1, and then to get DESMOS out of subscript mode and give you a normal cursor again, you again hit the over arrow button, and we now have a normal cursor. Finish the equation with plus b, and that will give you the y-intercept, and you are done. If you come back over to your graph and you just sort of click it, you will see that the bottom menu goes away, and we now have a perfectly drawn scatter plot that is showing a mild negative correlation. The x-axis has a good scale where you can see all the data points, and the y-axis is long enough where you can see how far up those data points go. You can actually take DESMOS and just right-click the screen, not left-click, right-click the screen, and go to Print. And when you go to Print, you will see the Print dialog box come up, and there's your scatter plot, and you are perfectly fine printing that off for your final draft. You might want to draw the numbers a little larger for the final draft, but this is a perfectly fine, accurate output for your graph. I hope this video helps, and good luck finishing up your scatter plots.